5 years.
Obviously, it is not a normal day. In fact, it's not a normal week here at the College of Journalism and Communications. It's a very exciting week. There's a great deal going on for all of you who are involved in advertising and public relations. Let's start with an activity that we do on a regular basis, which is our advisory councils for both departments are here this week. That's an opportunity for any of you who are interested in those fields to meet with top professionals and ask them anything at all. Please don't be shy about talking to our advisory council people. They're here to talk to you, and they will be deeply disappointed if they don't get a chance to talk to you, so take full advantage of that. Second, that beautiful room just to the left outside of the classroom you're in today, the agency will be dedicated this morning at 11 o'clock, and after that it will be in operation and be one of, I would assume, the top student-manned agency in the world. Right now there are a little under 60 students working with advertising professionals and public relations professionals to do amazing work for large national clients. The goal is to be a top-notch agency that focuses specifically on millennial audiences, and so far there's been an amazing amount of attention to that. So please take part in those festivities throughout the day. Finally, I want to introduce some people who will help you understand what we're going to do here this morning. First is the chair of the Department of Advertising, Dr. Tom Kelleher. And where is the other important chair in the room? I saw him. There he is. And for those of you who are public relations majors, Dr. Juan Carlos Molleda is in the back of the room, so some people important in your academic lives are there. So please enjoy the activities today. Of course, as with any class activities, you are accountable for the knowledge you learned today, just to make you understand your investment is worthwhile here today, beyond and above the great things you learned. So, Dr. Kelleher, take it away.
Thank you. I think that means some of this stuff might be on the test. I'm not sure. I do want to take 1 minute and remind you, too, that there's another panel this afternoon in the PUR 3000 class, and that'll be on Gator Futures. This panel, as you'll see, is a mix, primarily advertising advisory councils. We've got Bill Imada representing the Public Relations Advisory Council, and we'll have sort of a flip in the afternoon at 1:55 p.m. That class meets in Florida Gym Room 260. So Florida Gym Room 260. So we got a full day here with the panel this morning. We have the agency opening and dedication shortly after this, and then there'll be an afternoon panel too. So hopefully you'll take advantage. It's not very often. Well, actually, it's about once a semester we get all this expertise into one room onto one campus. So take advantage of it. What I'd like to do today is point your attention to a couple things. I've got a list of questions here, and I'm hoping I don't have to use too many of these questions because I think the questions will come from you. You may also tweet them. If you look, we have a hashtag AskAdCouncil, and if you tweet that, your question will show up here. You can designate who you'd like to ask it to. I'm just here to moderate the process, but right off the bat, I want to introduce all the members up here on the panel because we got 50 minutes and I want to hear from all of them, and I want there to be a good mix of questions. First is the chairman of our Advertising Advisory Council, Rob Cherof. He is co-founder and president of RocketCamp in Atlanta and longtime executive at BBDO. In fact, yesterday he arranged for a Skype call with a senior HR director at BBDO. Some of you might have been in on that. Very interesting on the topic of getting a job and being competitive in the workplace. Second panelist we have is Norm Gray. He's Executive Creative Director at Creative Circus. Any of you looking into going the creative route, you've probably heard about Creative Circus. Norm and David Hahn, who's another member of our advisory council, are the top two guys there. Again, a wealth of expertise here for anyone interested in going the creative side. Jay Schwedelson is up third. He's president and CEO of Worldata, Boca Raton, Florida. Keith Cutler is here, principal of KC Marketing Group, New York City. He also runs an executive search firm. So again, you'll notice there's a pattern here. A lot of this is about being career focused. Dayana Falcon is here. She is the one who set up this whole panel. our most recent graduate, so she can relate to being in your seat, but she also can definitely relate to being in the executive side of things. She's Global Marketing and Partnerships Manager at BPN in New York. We also have, as I mentioned, Bill Imada here. A lot of these folks, there's another theme besides just getting jobs this week. That theme is integration, particularly areas of strategic communication. We have Public Relations Advisory Council members in the audience. Bill Imada is representing the Public Relations Advisory Council. The agency is very much an integrated strategic operation. So we welcome Bill Imada, who's the Chief Collaboration Officer at IW Group. And finally, we have Shane Santiago, who's a Vice President and Digital Director of St. John and Partners in Jacksonville, Florida. So let me just start off. I am going to do one kind of down-the-line question, and then we'll open it up for back and forth. And it's kind of a double-barreled question. And what we want to find out is, first of all, what did you study in school? And then second, how did you end up working where you are now? And I realized, Rob, you could take the whole 50 minutes. So you have to start a precedent of doing this quick.
Okay, I'll do it.
And I have a microphone if you'd like that. Pass the mic down.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So I actually have a BS in advertising from the University of Florida. I studied this stuff. And I'll make it quick. My mom's an artist. My dad was a small business owner. Getting into advertising was perfect. I got to kind of use both sides of what I learned growing up. How did I get where I am now? I own a small ad agency, and I did it after traveling through a lot of the big ad agencies. So I took my first job, whatever I could get. It was at a small agency. Worked my way up to JWT. Worked there 11 years. Worked at Saatchi for a little while, and then worked at BBDO for another 11 years. Running some of their bigger pieces of business and running new business for the Atlanta office. And then after that whole path kind of ran its course, I got with my favorite creative guy, and I've always wanted to have my own place. And we said, we better do it now or we're not going to do it. So we're about 4 months in, and check back with me next year and I'll have a really good story for you. Is that fast enough?
Good.
I went to New York City Community College. It was 2 years. That's all I needed to get into business. I learned to be an art director / designer, but what I learned then was basically what a caveman knew about this business. And so you'll see for your own lives, things change, opportunities crop up as you go along. And I never expected to be a teacher of any kind. I never expected to open up a school of any kind. And that's what I've done. And that's basically from the foundation that I had, but you'll see the same thing that'll happen for you. Lives change, and many of the kids who graduate from our school as art directors are now film directors in Hollywood and authors. And so, you know, especially if you're going to go into creative, the world is wide open. We have guys we never taught any music, but they became music producers. So life presents opportunities, be ready for them, okay? It's not, as they say, a destination, it's a journey. So with that, enough philosophizing.
I have no philosophy. I'm a graduate of the University of Florida, this school. I sat in this room, I slept in this room a lot. I was an okay student, I would say. My folks had a business where they compiled yellow page directories in our house, so I was always around marketing, and I didn't want to do that for a living. So when I was in college, this is back in the early mid-90s, I started an internet advertising company when there really wasn't such a thing as internet advertising, and we placed the first little banner ads on sites. And while I was in college, I would try to attend random conferences and just try to figure out whatever I could, and stumbled along the way and got merged with this business, that business, all this stuff. And today I have this nice direct response media agency in South Florida. And so my philosophy is just, you know, try to absorb everything you can. It's not always about what you're going to read in the textbook. It's about getting as much life experience as you can.
I was actually a classmate of Rob's. We were on the campaign team together, the AAF campaign team together from way back. And I think how I got here today is I hustled and talked my way into the O'Connell Center when it opened up. and did whatever I could to do their advertising and marketing back then, which led me to a career in excuse me, sports and entertainment marketing. And sitting in Gannett Auditorium when they opened this building, little did I know I'd go to work for Gannett and work for USA Today for a very long time, and also Turner, and had I think a really great fun career working for Turner and CBS and USA Today in sports. And then now I flipped the tables and I'm hiring people to do that, and I also work with different companies in startup capacity, working with a lot of folks just out of college who have big ideas and great ideas to, you know, change the landscape, the marketing and business landscape as we know it, and that sort of invigorates me and gets me excited again. So that's kind of full circle from the O'Connell Center, the Gannett Auditorium, back to working with a bunch of young folks, which I enjoy.
Good morning, guys. So I work for an IPG agency, VPN. So proud IPGers, 2 of us up here. We all want you to come work for IPG, no offense to you guys. I graduated from the School of Journalism and Communications as an advertising major in class of 2011, so recent grad 4 years ago. I have moved cross-country twice in the past 4 years, and now I helped launch VPN, which is a new media agency in the IPG family, so entrepreneurial, but with the resources of a big name. And that's what I do, so looking forward to talking to you guys about it.
Hello, everyone. My vision is that every intersection that you walk in is an opportunity, so my job is to make sure that I help you connect the dots as you find your journey in your career. So that's why I'm the Chief Diversity Officer of IW Group. We're a multicultural public relations agency who has morphed into an advertising and public relations agency where the lines are blurred. And recently, well, I should say 10 years ago, 49% of the company was bought by Interpublic. So we're part of a larger and mighty team. I did not go to the University of Florida. I went to a California university, and I studied business management with an emphasis in marketing. Yep.
And now the last guy has to talk. So yeah, I'm like most of the panel, I'm an advertising grad from this fine university. I won't say what year, because I'm trying to hide my grades. So my first job out of school here was at Ogilvy, New York. And I kind of made my way back down the 95 corridor. And I started, like Rob did about 5 years ago, I started my own digital creative agency after being around at some of the bigger agencies. And we just sold that agency to St. John & Partners, which is the agency I'm at up in Jacksonville. Yeah, it's really interesting to be back, just like everyone's saying, and be on this side of the seats and seeing you all. So again, we're really excited, so please don't hesitate to ask us questions afterwards. Lots of experience up here. I mean, I look up to a lot of these, even though I sit on the council with them. So much great experience, everyone's super nice, except for me. Don't come talk to me. No, I think it's a really cool opportunity for you guys to meet some really great and smart people, so take advantage of it.
Cool, thank you. I'll have you hold the mic for a minute. Any questions right off the bat? Think of them, tweet them. Jay, you already got quotes on Twitter.
What did I do wrong?
You're famous.
There you go.
But please
Wake
do
up, Jay.
post questions up there. Be ready to raise your hand. But since Shane has the microphone, I'll ask him the first question.
Hot potato.
Hot potato, yes. Your title, VP Digital Director. How do you keep up with all the changes in technology and digital?
So I hang out with all of young people just like yourselves. You guys are all digital natives, I'm sure, so it's about being around and close to the audience that uses those types of platforms. Lots and lots of reading. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are watch your TV content primarily through a streaming service like Netflix or Hulu or? See, back when we were, that's why there is a digital side now in advertising, because traditional is more television, broadcast television, radio, but because of so many of you raising your hands, that produces an opportunity for me. So again, since you guys kind of live and breathe this stuff, it's all about meeting and talking to you, research, and just a lot of reading. There's awesome pubs out there, Mashable, NextWeb, there's just a million, that if you just set up a feed, I mean, again, you guys could probably write half of those articles, but that's how old people like me try to stay on top of stuff.
Great, thank you.
You're old.
Questions?
I
Yes.
age really well.
I have a question for Mr. Imada.
Okay.
As I'm also a business major and I would like to go into public relations, what advice would you have for someone that's trying to cross that barrier?
First of all, you're making a very smart move. Having the business skills are absolutely essential, so I actually think that being a business major puts you in a really good position. I would take some classes in both public relations and advertising as well, but you could easily move into advertising or public relations with an emphasis in business. But just take a few additional classes, maybe minor in one of the other disciplines that they have at this university, advertising or PR, and you'll be well on your way. So I'll help you get there.
Yes.
I have a question for UF graduates. What are some societies you joined when you were in school, or like opportunities that you created and took advantage of?
You talk.
The question was for the UF grads, what organizations were you involved with? What opportunities did you take advantage of as students?
I would say Ad Society is absolutely amazing, as well as PRSSA for the public relations sector of the school. They have speakers come every 2 weeks, different professionals from all over the nation to come talk to you and give you exposure into what's really happening out there. They go visit agencies. A group of Ad Society students came to New York, and I was able to connect them with a bunch of IPG agencies. So PRSSA, I know, does different competitions in different states. So those two organizations, and take advantage of that, the agency that's being launched here. I've never seen something like this at any level, at any school. And the fact that you guys are all here and it's in this building, take advantage, go in there, shadow. I heard a group of students just went to Mexico to go pitch a client in undergrad, in OSET.
Keith or Jay?
Sure. Yeah. I did more of the random route. I was involved with Accent, which I thought was really, really cool. I got a lot out of it because you got to interact with just people that you would never be able to interact with. I ended up getting involved with Blue Key, which also was really cool because you're around really smart people. One of the things that I did had nothing to do with UF while I was here to try to get more of a background on things. So Orlando's real close by, and the convention center there is huge, and they would always have conventions on all sorts of different, marketing or business or everything related stuff. So anytime there was a convention there, I would actually drive down to Orlando and try to attend it. You could usually get an exhibit hall pass for like $50 or even less. And I got more out of that than almost any of the clubs and stuff I was involved with here. So it's not always just relegated to just, this group or that group. There's a lot of opportunities that you could find outside of just the regular stuff.
Rob, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll add just a little something here. I think as long as you get into the advertising or PR industry somehow, you don't have to join the club in it. So if you join the club, great, you get great opportunities. I did community service stuff. And I think the other thing you could do is just be involved. Don't sit in the audience. Find something you like enough to be involved in and take some kind of leadership role in. Whatever that is. It doesn't matter what the club is.
Thank you. I'm just trying to figure out how Shane posted a tweet with no hands.
That's cool.
From Shane Santiago. That guy, Shane Santiago.
You are ahead of the digital curve.
That is a neat trick.
I posted that.
I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We have a time thing.
Virtual tweet.
Other
Hacked into
questions?
them.
Chip we put in his brain.
Well, kind of coming back down the line, Bill, you're listed for multicultural communication, multicultural advertising, multicultural public relations. Can we take it for granted that that's a growing field, and what are some of the trends you see there?
Absolutely. If you have an opportunity to learn about multicultural marketing and PR, those are really growing areas. It's very important to know that many states in this country are becoming minority-majority states. We're also seeing a lot of immigration here, so it's going to continue to fuel a need for segmented marketing. So a lot of the agencies are now developing segmented marketing approaches. Some are developing a total market approach, but they really can't get away from the nuance of culture. And so if you want to look at a career that has a high growth area, I would focus a little bit on what's happening in this country today. Because states like California, not too long from now, Florida, will become minority-majority states with a lot of immigrants coming from all over the world. So it is a high growth area. Our company continues to grow. We're one of the few ad and PR agencies that are in this track. And so please consider that as an opportunity.
All right, thank you. Questions?
It's too early for them.
It is. Well, we'll keep going. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and go to Norm Gray here with a question on creative building portfolios. You've probably seen as many portfolios as anybody in the world. As you know, a lot of students here from introductory courses all the way up to being seniors might not have the ideal portfolio yet. So what do you do in the meantime for filler, or how do you handle that when you don't have the ideal portfolio together yet, but you want to have something to show?
I would say, to tell you the truth, it sounds like
Oh, this is a practice, by the way.
oh,
Wrong answer.
Yeah, I think that is, if you've been in Weimer Hall at all in the last few weeks, you've heard that a few times. I think that's our final fire alarm system test for the agency.
better next
That
time.
means we're almost there, assuming it doesn't go off again in the next hour. Sorry about that.
well, I was going to say, is to make your life easy, I'd say just go to the Creative Circus website and look under talent and see what people who are getting jobs have in their portfolios. And if you can try and emulate that, you don't ever have to go to another school. You can get a job out of here. But if you can't emulate that, then you might have to consider the entire world of academia named portfolio schools finishing schools. So you may have to go to a finishing school. And one way to find out if you do, go out and look for a job. If you get a job that you want, I don't mean, you know, with the paper hat. I'm saying go and get a job that you like, then you don't need a finishing school. If you get a job that's not great, Rob's right. He said, take anything as long as it gets you started. You're getting some experience and it works well on your resume. And the other thing he said, and a few people have said, do whatever you can that's extracurricular. I learned from Dayana that people who are involved with the ad club, who do a little bit more than the minimum daily requirement, they somehow or other develop the ability to work in a corporation. Because corporations today don't want somebody that has to be told what to do. They want people who are proactive. If you see people running down the hall looking very busy and you've got nothing to do, ask if you can help. That's what they want. They want self-starters. So what I'm saying is, do yourself a favor, check your work against what you see from graduates from portfolio schools. Look at Miami Ad, VCU, look at their website, see what your competition is doing. If you can emulate it, fine. Go out, look for a job. Get it, fine. If none of those things become positives, then think about possibly getting some help about building your portfolio. And we're not all about self-aggrandizement at the circus. If you have a question, you can call us. We'll talk to you, even if you're not a student, okay? All right. Does that answer?
Thank you, that does. Thank you, Norman. He's telling you the truth. I went and visited over the summer up there. Walked in, saw like 5 students with gator shirts on doing chomps, and I'm like, you guys planned that, didn't you? And they had gators there.
Well, we've graduated so many gators, really, and they're all gainfully employed.
I got a related question for Keith Cutler, not just from the marketing side, but also sort of from the executive search side. LinkedIn, it's tempting when you see a connection, maybe completely cold or maybe just another University of Florida grad. How do you feel about handling sort of those cold connections on LinkedIn? How should students manage those, or should they just avoid them?
Well, no, I flip it the other way. I hate them.
You hate it? All right.
Don't ever do a cold connection unless you state your purpose. I always say communicate with a purpose in everything you do. Everything you do. So when you send out a LinkedIn, don't just do the default because the odds are against you. Why should I connect with you? What's the reason? Give me a reason. It's a business, social media. Create a relevant business reason. Write one sentence. Hi, I met you at University of Florida, whatever. Comma, whatever. One sentence, 2 sentences. Make it a relevant business connection. This is not a game. You don't have to collect 500 plus contacts. Excuse me. It's all with a reason. Everything communicate with a reason. And make it brief. Make everything you do brief, and I'm going to try to keep this short as well. So everything with a purpose, brief, but give it a reason, make it relevant. No cold contacts. I don't accept them, and I don't endorse them.
All right, thank you. We have our first Twitter question from Courtney Marsh, and it looks like it's for Bill. Since you have a focus in the multicultural sector, do you get to travel often?
I'm in Florida every single day. Asia, Europe, Latin America. I'm going to Washington, Boston, and New York all in this week. So it's a great experience traveling, but I have to tell you, I probably will get a lot of agreement here. After a while, it gets really old and you just want to stay home, because I do travel a lot.
That's great. I'll have you hand it to Dayana. Big focus of the agency is millennials. It's going to be part of the model that gets the agency off the ground. Focus on millennials, millennial research. Most of you fall into the category of millennials. Dayana, you fall into the category of millennials. How do you leverage that?
We all know that millennials are always like, I have a better idea. And other generations aren't as cool with that. So you need to find the right way in those environments, in these corporate environments, to preface that in a way that benefits the company. So when I got relocated to New York, what's really cool about my job is that I get to work with all of our CEOs around the world to help expand new business opportunities, to help market the agency, to submit awards for case studies such as Cannes, etc. And in that I've learned that, yes, I'm the youngest one doing it, but I don't think it's a factor. I think once you get the respect and you show that you work your ass off, I think you're another colleague, and you need to be treated as one. I don't look at myself as like an intern or the younger one at my company. I look at myself as a valuable asset, and I'm an adult now. So you ask to be paid correctly, not just because I'm younger, I get paid less as a woman, equal rights, all that good stuff. But I think people think that because we're younger, and once we get a little bit of experience, there's this weird silo that they think, oh, millennials, no, you get paid less, you don't bring value. Shane just said that he surrounds himself with all the millennials at his company to make sure he's up to date on all digital opportunities for new business clients. So I would say, think of your values, and when you guys are working for these companies, get involved in new business. When you're pitching new business and you help bring new business to your company, that's revenue that you're bringing to a company. That's super valuable, and we have the skill sets to help make that happen. If it's, I just did a pitch for Clorox, and I created a custom microsite. They didn't ask for it, but I went above and beyond and did it, and we made it into the second round. So just raising your hand, going above and beyond, and knowing that you should reach to be a respected, equal colleague in your company as you continue to grow your careers.
Can I add something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a quick add. I forgot the stat, but I think it's by the end of 2016 or early 2017, millennials will actually be the biggest generation in the U.S. So you guys, I mean, from a business perspective, that's why all of our agencies and our brands are clamoring to understand millennials. It's so weird that it's being segmented that way, but it's going to be the way. You know, your generation has so much spending power, so much so much influence. There's so much commitment to diversity, to equal right, all those things that companies and brands are aspiring to do. So I think, in addition to what Dayana was saying is, recognize your place in that generation, recognize the influence you have. So when you take a lot of this good advice, you can actually, make a difference, and you can be a part of that. And that's the old guard kind of like saying like, oh, stop raising your hand and saying you have a better idea. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, every generation is like that. So I think those of us who, and Bill just gave me a great compliment. He's like, "You're not a millennial." I was like, "No, but I'll take it. I'll take it." But I think you guys have such a unique opportunity to be such a big part of that sort of paradigm shift, and it's such a cool time to be in advertising and PR. So recognize that opportunity and take advantage of it.
Thank you, Shane.
Hey,
Rob, yeah.
I want a slightly different perspective on it. I am not a millennial, you can see. A couple of things that I think might help you out. First of all, for you as millennials, those of you that are, pay attention to the other generations too. And a generation doesn't mean young. Millennials are young now, But eventually millennials are going to get older, like boomers got older and Xers got older. So pay attention to the current, to your generation, but also look, just behind you is a whole new generation, which will have different points of view and attitudes and work in different ways. So everyone thinks they're it, but there's always another one. The other thing is, look up. And those are the Xers and boomers are going to be your bosses in a lot of cases, not in every case. And try to understand them as well, because they see the world a little differently than you do. So it's just a matter of really understanding this big picture of probably 3 generations operating in the same workplace and the same marketplace at the same time. And I think it gives you a much broader, less cliched approach to your career.
All right, I almost missed a tweet question. Thanks to May for retweeting Kristen Peeves 215. Most internships want us to have an internship or experience before working there. Any ideas on how to get this done? You got the mic, but we can hand it around on this one.
Yeah, you got to just start somewhere and use your own network, your parents' friends, your friends, former graduates. You got to intern somewhere. If you can do it on campus, in the school, there's more opportunities here than ever. I would say that's probably a fair statement.
All right, live question.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm an accounting major with a minor in mass communications, and no one in my family has any connections to the PR world. What would I do if I don't have those connections?
I don't believe that for a second, by the way.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe
No,
it.
I don't either.
She just has to dig deeper, like you said.
Yeah, you got to dig deeper.
You probably do.
You have to, I'll pass it to you in a second here. You have to dig deeper. You have to go to alumni. Same situation. No one in my family ever worked in the business. Through a professor, through the office, the administrators, I just knocked on doors. And so here's the thing. You all have lived a pretty good life so far, and now you're going to have to work a little harder. You just are. Even if you're working hard, you're going to have to work a little harder. And you got to find it and break down some barriers and stand up and ask someone a question. And I mean, I look around, we've had very few people saying, I got a question. You got to just get over it and assert yourself a little bit and do it politely as you are, and you'll find it. It is there.
Sure.
I would say to look for your passion points. So if you're doing accounting, it sounds like you like finance. So huge banks all over the world, Morgan Stanley, Chase, Wells Fargo, etc. They have marketing jobs there. They have communications jobs there. So it's tying a passion point with something else that you like with marketing. So I'm big on following your passion points.
I'll add to that. And a topic I think we're talking about at some point, maybe in the PR session or throughout your career, it's integrated marketing and merging skills. So I say learn things that will separate you. So whether it's technical skills, digital skills, because as Dayana said, the banks are not everyone's best friend. In case weren't paying attention, a few years ago we had one of the worst recessions in all of our lifetimes, and they still have a story to tell, and they still have to keep telling that story. So in the finance world, the banks need PR people desperately for crisis management, telling their story, showing whatever positive side that they're helping society in a greater good with all of our tax dollars, whatever it may be. So separate yourself. Learn skills that will separate yourself from everybody else, whether it's, again, everything from joining Ad Society and some other clubs to walking down the street. Or I'll tell you, Jay had a fantastic idea. You really did, and I told him too, and I'll tell him again. If you see conferences or conventions, you don't have to pay $50. You're a student. Call up somebody, talk your way in, ask to work someone's booth for free. And find a company that needs help. They all want someone to stand on hard concrete floor for them for nothing. Do that. That will separate you.
All right, a quick question for Jay. There's another dimension here we haven't talked too much about. And we actually sometimes don't spend enough time on it in the classroom, business-to-business messaging.
Yeah.
Any advice on, or discuss what makes it different?
I have to tell you, that was one of my frustrations when I was in school, was that everything was about really the consumer side of things. I will tell you, when you graduate and you do get jobs, whether in advertising, marketing, whatever you do, First of all, if you do on the consumer side, you're not going to be working on the Matthew McConaughey talking in the car, rubbing his hands together. That's probably not what you're going to be doing. You'll be working for some like local thingamabob, promoting something you don't even know what it is. And a lot of you are going to be working on the B2B side of things. I would say half the people in this room are going to be working on business-to-business related advertising campaigns and products. And really just even learning some of the basics about it. You know, what's an enterprise organization versus a mid-market versus a small business? What are these target audiences? What's the difference between a job title and a job function when you're doing targeting? You know, we all know how to target, you know, age, and regular demographics, you know, household income, things like that on the consumer side. But on the business side, you need to learn those basics. Because when you go in for a job interview, they're going to want to know that you know the basics of business-to-business marketing. And the messaging is completely different. You know, how consumers, you know, you'll get an email from Neiman Marcus, buy this today, next 12 hours. That's not the way the business marketing works. It's very top of the funnel. It's very lead nurturing. It's very based on a lot of multi-channel, omni-channel. Oh, you signed up for this, you're going to get this direct mail piece, you're going to get this ad, you're going to get this social interaction. And it's this nurture process. So I strongly encourage you guys to spend the time learning about the business-to-business side of things. The amount of products and purchases that are bought on the business side within this economy are far outweigh what's bought on the consumer side. So you will wind up getting, most of you probably wind up on the business side and not on the consumer side.
Yes?
What are some of the best reads that you've done? Like, what books can you recommend? Because I know there's a lot of books on advertising, how to do a great campaign and all that. What would you recommend for us to read?
Well, I'll give you one.
Okay, go ahead. I'm illiterate, so.
There's a book called...
I was sleeping in class.
Just numbers.
Well, great question, because you should keep reading and keep growing in class and out, so that's great. There's a book called How We Decide, and it's just great. It's how people make decisions rationally and irrationally. And what's the other one? Irrational...
Exuberance?
No.
There is a book there. I think that's...
I'll think of the name of this one. Yeah. Rationally Irrational. Yeah, Rationally Irrational. And these books really help you understand how people decide to buy a $9.99 bottle of wine versus a $4.25 bottle of wine. Or how there's a picture of 3 ice cream cones. How do you choose your flavor? It's just really terrific. It gets into the mind of a consumer, of a person. And it's just fascinating. The other thing is just keep reading. I think Fortune magazine sounds so stuffy. Great case studies on how businesses made decisions to go left or go right, go young, go old. Really, really good stuff. And everyone's got to have some answers here.
I'll take it. There's a couple books. And one, my favorite business book, and I only read business books, unfortunately, for everybody else, a book called Delivering Happiness. Who doesn't know the company Zappos? Everyone knows Zappos?
Oh, yeah.
Tony Hsieh, the founder, CEO, wrote this book. It's a really easy read. It's very conversational, but it talks about his passion, talks about customer service. We're in a customer business. We're in a people business and a relationship business. You will see some insight that you will want to think about yourself and how you deal with people, because he did that and created this huge company, Zappos, but that wasn't the first company he ever created. He walked away from a huge company because he wasn't happy. And I think Dayana said, look for your passion points. That's all part of what you want to do in your life. You have a great opportunity as you're moving forward and you're going to work for the next 30, 40, whatever years, 50 years. And so Delivering Happiness, I think, is a good life story, and it's a great business story, and it's an easy read, and it's fun because you realize the culture of Zappos. It's the kind of company you want to work for. It's the kind of people and leaders you want to be. Another book that isn't as fun, but it's written by a Wharton MBA professor named Adam Grant called Give and Get, and it talks about givers, and it talks about instead of going out looking for favors, is offering yourself. Giving. Giving pays back, and I think it's a good philosophical business book. But it has some research attached to it, statistical evidence that giving pays off. So there's the givers and there's the takers, and being a giver is a good philosophy as well. So I'd say anything customer relations, customer service related, like Delivering Happiness, and offering yourself and giving will pay dividends. So those are two good books for you.
Thank you. Diana's Passion Points quote, I think, was the most quotable or Twitterable, tweetable quote from the panel so far.
You're trending in Gainesville.
You're trending now with Passion Points. Two of the questions that came off of that, one was for Norm Gray, someone passionate about music and wanting to know how they can get into advertising if their passion is music. Another one for Bill Imada, passion's intercultural, how to get into PR if that's the route you want to go. So let's start with Norm there.
All I can say is, don't be shy. Really. If you make music, be willing to play it. I mean, seriously, those stories about, a guy on an elevator singing to someone who's a producer to just try and get a job, that is real. I couldn't do it if my life depended on it, but there are people who are so anxious and so hungry, they do it. So make music. If you have friends who have a garage band, offer to play or help, whatever. I think what Craig said, what Keith said just a few minutes ago about basically, if you give, you get. So, like asking about if your parents don't know anybody, so go and meet strangers, okay? Be willing. We've had graduates who basically, like one guy was a high school teacher before he came to the school, to the Creative Circus, and he graduated as a copywriter, but he met a girl, and the two of them make music in more ways than one, okay? So, he's just got albums now. His name is Mark, I can't come up with it right now, Mark Radcliffe. I don't know how successful the albums are, but he's enjoying his life as someone who's in the music business. So I don't have a direct route to answer that question because I'm not involved with the music industry per se. But there are people who support advertising by making music. Find out on Google, whatever. Just enter music production. And basically, and as Keith said, don't make it what amounts to a blank resume. Basically, write something. If you want to get a movie script looked at in Hollywood today, you got to get it down to one line on the cover. One line to interest people so that they'll even open up the cover. So what I'm saying is if you want somebody to read your letter, get it down to one line of what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. If you've always wanted to live in San Francisco, that doesn't endear you to an employer. You say, what I can do for you if I live in San Francisco. So that's all I'm saying is that I really don't have a direct route to the music industry, but if you love it, if you have a passion, if you have friends who play with them, okay? And do your best to find, as I said, go on Google and find people who produce music for television, for movies, for the radio, okay?
Thanks, man. While I'm passing the mic, I want to point out Aaron Hart from the Public Relations Advisory Council posted a link to more books and blogs that may be of interest related to the book question. But back to Bill now on multicultural career routes.
I have to tell you, if you have a curiosity for everything about multicultural, about international relations, about the intersections that people from different cultures and communities have, if you are a person that focuses on solutions and believe that there are multiple solutions to every challenge, if you're a person that believes that you can reinvent the wheel, if you're a person that believes that you should think in the box first, then step outside, and then step in and out, if you're a person that believes that walking the walk and talking the talk isn't good enough, then you might want to consider public relations as an opportunity, because public relations people focus on solutions. They're people, they're solutions-oriented people. But I have to tell you one thing that is very important is if you can get away from conventional thinking and believe that everything you do is an opportunity, I think you'll do well in either advertising or public relations. But one last thing I want to mention is I had a person say to me that she wanted to open a restaurant. She was a Vietnamese woman, and she wanted to call this restaurant Taste of Saigon Street. And I told her that was gross. And then she said, but Bill, the best feeling you can get about my community and me as a person and what I value is on the streets of my community. So I now tell people, if you want to get into PR, don't say walk the walk and talk the talk. Say, I'm going to taste the street.
We get one more question.
This is directed at anyone. What do you guys feel is the fastest growing city for careers in public relations or advertising?
Good question.
Fastest.
You stumped though.
Well, Bill handed me the mic, so I'm going to take a guess. No, obviously sort
That's
of.
what PR people do.
Yeah, smart. Here's what advertising.
Right, because he said so.
Just kidding. So obviously, I mean, I think you're going to think about New York, right? You're going to think about Chicago, Atlanta, LA. So it really depends on. I mean, I think before you think about geography, think about where you want to live. You know, on the personal side, like Austin's a really cool town, an up and coming city for advertising and PR. Portland. Did any of you guys watch Portlandia? Nobody? Oh man.
A few.
Okay, cool.
A few.
It's awesome. Anyway, but I mean, I think especially for younger folks like you guys, I think those are kind of the newer hotbeds. Even, you know, South Florida has a lot of opportunities. I mean, I think before you think about, I'm going to go to New York because that's where everybody has to go. I mean, I would recommend it if you're in advertising. Definitely try to get to New York. I mean, I think all of us have been to New York at some part in our career. But I think that's what's so cool about it right now. Today, there's opportunity everywhere. So I mean, look at those big cities. Look at that second tier too, like the Austins and the Bostons and other cities that rival Austin and Boston,
Right.
and Portland and things like that.
Atlanta.
Right, and Atlanta's real super close by. So I mean, you have a lot of folks that have experience. Rob, you know,
Orange.
speak to the A very well. So I mean, again, there's lots of opportunity in a lot of places.
You can also now think domestic, go global. London, Singapore, Brazil. For those of you that know Spanish, learning Portuguese, that's something I'm going to try to take on now because the Brazil marketplace is just booming. So
Olympics next year.
Olympics, like
That's Brazil.
look for all that kind of stuff. So what Jay said, you had mentioned.
Whatever was
B2B.
awesome.
Yeah. So I think I turned it off.
As soon as you say my name, that's what happened.
Well, B2B, sorry, I don't know what I did. In the B2B space, I help market my agency for BPN, IPG Media Brand. So I get to work with all the different markets, and I'm involved in this past week putting together a pitch with Latin America, Middle East, and Canada. So being able to work with those markets, traveling to those markets, understanding those markets, there's a lot of business opportunities in that. In the IPG Media Brands family, we classify it as North America, World Markets, and G14. World Markets being the Romanias, the Denmarks, the Perus, the Colombia, and then G14, Mexico, India, Australia, etc. So I think the way that Media Brands, I'm obviously biased because I work there, but the way that they've categorized how those different markets are playing out, they're grouping markets together that are growing very quickly. So go global. We don't have kids yet. Do it now.
Thank you. I do want to take a minute here, we have just about a minute left, and ask the members of the advisory councils who are here, who aren't on the panel, to please stand up for a moment. Please. Thank you. Not only are we going to welcome them, but I want to mention that so the agency dedication's at 11 a.m. It is 10:23 a.m. So that gives you, what, 37 minutes of prime networking time, not just for the folks on the panel, but for these other folks, if you can catch up with them. Thank you very much. Really good. Thank you.